Hello, everybody. Welcome to the College to Calling Summit. My name is Nico Lau, and I am super excited today to have you on this summit. So the purpose of this online show is to teach fellow college graduates like myself on how you can build a happy, successful, abundant life centered exactly around your passion. And today we have a super special guest with us here. His name is Tony Whatley. Tony is an entrepreneur, business mentor, podcast host, best-selling author, and speaker. And he's known as the Side Hustle Millionaire after his book with the same title became a best-selling author on Amazon. And the exciting part is that the title is not only a fiction, it's actually based on Tony's actual story. So Tony, how are you doing today?
Miko, I'm doing great, and thank you for having me on your podcast, your show here. So I think it's going to be helpful, and I really want to give some value to the audience.
Awesome. Yeah, so the reason why I invited you to be on this show is because I know a lot of my listeners out here are also looking for ways that they can build a successful side business that maybe eventually can replace a full-time job. And I know a lot of them out there are also probably wondering how they can possibly make it happen on top of their full-time job. So, that's something that I'm super excited to talk to you about. So let's jump right into the interview. I would love for you to take us back in time a little bit and tell us about your journey before all of these amazing success started to happen. Where were you before then? And what was that one thing that changed everything for you?
Awesome. I love to share the backstory. My mother's Japanese. She's an immigrant. She came over. She married my dad. He's in the U.S. Marines. He was a military. So I was actually born on a Marine base in Japan. We moved to California for a little bit. Then I moved to Texas when I was about 3 years old. So I grew up with two hardworking blue collar parents that just really put in a lot of hours to make the income. We really didn't have a lot of money. We were lower middle class. We always lived in fixer upper houses, trying to refurbish those, live in them for a while we repaired things, and they would sell them and do a little upgrade. So I'd seen that 3 times in my life. And I just learned that if I ever wanted something, I had to go make that happen for myself. Since they didn't have the financial means, they taught me the work ethics and the consistency and just being persistent and to do things. If I wanted something, I had to go figure it out. So that led to me putting myself through college. I've got a mechanical engineering degree in the University of Houston, and that took me 7 years to graduate. A lot of people think, well, damn, were you just like slacking off? But the thing was, I was actually working full time in the chemical plants here in the Houston area as a pipe fitter and a welder, trying to get better and better, and just going to school at night. So I could only take about 2 or 3 classes per night, and it took me a long time. And even then I was waiting tables at restaurants on the weekends to make extra money to be able to afford all this. And so when I finally graduated college and I had a 40 hour a week job, like this engineering job, it all of a sudden felt like I had this part-time job because I'd been in that hustle 24/7, almost literally many times mode for about 7 years. It felt like it was pretty easy. And then I got into this 40-hour job and was like, okay, I can sit on the couch at 5 o'clock every evening and do nothing, or go party and just get drunk and do stupid things like most people in their 20s, or I can go get another job or maybe 2 jobs. And that's what I did. I started waiting tables again. Even after my engineering job, I'd go back to the restaurants that evening, make an extra $100 a night. And then on the weekend days, I would go work on cars, whether it was installing stereos or repairing or making them faster. Just, I love cars. So I was always trading my time to go make dollars. And that's the employee mindset that we're really brought up with, just thinking that you would trade your hours for dollars. And I get into that a little bit later about how we can get away from that. But it's so important to understand that if you're not living the lifestyle that you truly want right now, that you have to be willing to do what it takes to get there. And most people put their ego and their pride ahead of things, and they go, well, I've got an engineering degree. I've got an engineering salary. I don't need to go wait tables. They tell themselves these lies because their ego gets in the way. But then 5 years goes by and they're still at the same job, same lifestyle, same level of friends. It's like, if you want something, you have to be willing to do whatever it takes. And honestly, most people really aren't willing to do what it takes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, wow, that is very inspirational. Taking 7 years to finish that degree, it takes endurance, and that's not something that a lot of people have. So I know since it took you so much hard work and time and dedication to finish this career, so how was it like when you transitioned to becoming an entrepreneur? I have no doubt that fears was one of the biggest thing that came up. So how did you overcome that?
I think it's overcoming the middle class mindset is what I teach people nowadays. It's something that we think if we need more money, we go work more hours or we go get a second job or the third job, or it's always about trading time and dollars. And when I was early in my engineering career, I remember wanting to do more. Like they give me the tasks and it was felt really easy for me. And I get that because a lot of times you look at your boss and you go, I can do that job. That's not that hard. So here I was in my late 20s and I was not getting the leadership or the authority type experience that I wanted. I was not in the decision making or the executive decisions. I was not allowed to be ultra creative. I was just kind of going through the motions like most people with their normal corporate jobs. And if I wasn't going to get that internally at a job, I started to think, well, what can I do externally and to be able to get the leadership skills and the creativity and the freedom and to do things that I enjoy. So I'm a car fanatic. Those of you may look me up. I have a bunch of cars and I love cars, and the businesses have always been created around my passions of cars. And that's how I stuck my foot into the automotive industry, is basically I created businesses within something I have a lot of passion for. And things just kind of took off from there. And I think honestly, my first business I started was back in 2001. And it was ls1tech.com. It was an online community for automotive performance enthusiasts. And it grew into the largest one on the internet. It grew to over 300,000 registered members. And that was something that was never intended to grow that big. It's just that when you put your heart and soul in things and you create value, people enjoy the value, they keep coming up, and it just grew organically. And so this was all days before social media existed. So we had online forums and message boards and things like that to share our passions and our hobbies. But we always treated it like a business from day one. And I think that's what differentiated us from the others, is we always treated the customers who were the audience, even though they were there for free, we treated them like valuable customers because we had to deliver them a great experience so they will keep coming back and tell their friends. And that meant upgrading the servers and the softwares and making sure everything ran smoothly so there was no lag time. And so we're always investing money up front before things became problems. And that's the testament of we always did things the right way. So that attracted the sponsored dollars and the ad revenue, and we're generating multiple six figures a year in profit at that point. So around, I guess, 2003, my part-time business, which was really only taking me about 40 minutes a day because I had a team of freelancers and things like that running the servers by then. I kind of stepped out of the graphic design and doing things like that. I was more of the visionary type. And at that point, my part-time business was actually more income than my full-time job.
Wow, that is very impressive. And a few things I really got out of that part that you just mentioned. It's so important when we do everything from our heart with the intention to serve. That's really when results will start to come up. But let me ask you this. So I know a lot of our audience out there hear amazing stories like yours all the time, and they really want to make this happen, but they don't know the specific action, tangible action steps that they can take right now, today, to really go out and make this happen. So first of all, I think you mentioned you need to know your passion, right? So to do something around your passion. But what else beyond that? What can they do today if they really want to go on this journey?
So there's an intersection that I always tell people to look for, is the passion, the purpose, and the expertise. So the intersection of those three things, your passion, your purpose, and your expertise, are where you're going to get the best odds of success. So a lot of people walk around and they brag about having business ideas. I think you and I both know people around, our friends and people that we've worked with, and are like, hey, someday I'm going to start a business. Or they may even have an idea of the business they're going to start, but the thing is they haven't figured out how they're going to monetize that kind of thing. And they don't really understand if the business is actually a valid thing that people want. So a lot of times people pride themselves on having ideas. But here's the cold hard fact, is that thousands of people die every single day with amazing ideas. But very few people are actually willing to take the action to go pursue those ideas. So you don't pat yourself on the back because you have ideas. Learn how to compare them against each other. So when my book, Side Hustle Millionaire, I actually go through a whole process of how to look at the different ideas that you have. I think it's good to have multiple ideas, because sometimes you hold on to these ideas that are not going to make you the lifestyle or the money that you truly need to have what you want. So you kind of got to be able to be strong enough to walk away from the ideas that are not going to get you to where you want to be. So I always try to think about the end in mind, like what are the financial goals or the time goals that you would like to have in your life? And will this business idea eventually be able to scale and monetize itself to become that goal? And if you start to look at it and go, man, there's just no way to get from here to here, then you got to be big enough to go, well, that's kind of not an idea that I'm going to waste a lot of time, because every year that you waste on the wrong business is really wasting 2 years on the right business, because now you wasted that year and you're going to go start over again. And you see that people do this all the time. They got people different business cards like every 6 months. And it's just that they have not really sat down and thought about, does this business model really build me the potential to reach the financial, the time goals that I have? And the honest truth is most don't. So I kind of work through this, the passion, the purpose, and the expertise. So whatever your passions are, like most people go, well, I don't know what my passions are. Well, the easiest way to think about that is like, if you walk into a bookstore and you see the magazine stand, and there's literally thousands of magazines out there on, it's like, which one of those magazines, there's only one, which one do you walk up to first and grab and flip cover to cover before you even make it to the checkout counter? Because that's going to be an indicator of something that you have passion in, that subject or that industry, or whatever that's about. So maybe you could start creating a business idea that's within that industry or supports that industry, or an invention within an industry, or like just something that's involved in that industry. Because I think that's going to have a lot more effect when you decide times are getting tough and you're like, oh, this isn't, this feels like work. Like, people who are doing what they truly love never feel like they're working. They just enjoy doing it. That's what the passion is. So the purpose is a very strong word. And most people, especially younger people in your demographic, maybe in college, it sounds like, what is that meaning of life type question? And you know what? Nobody knows that answer. And I'll tell you that I'm 47 now. And as I start to go through the years, their purpose will change over time based on what your situation is, or what your economics are, or what your goals are, whether it's career or family or building a legacy. Like, it's okay that your purpose changes over time, but to ask yourself what the purpose is just, if your purpose is just to make money, it's not going to be a very good, successful purpose, because that's a really weak purpose. And that's the number one thing I think most people fail at business, because they purely want to make money. So what happens is they start to compromise on their core values and their characteristics and their needs to go pursue things because they think they can make the most money in that idea, but it's not something they have a purpose for or passion for. So they end up losing, because here's the thing, as an entrepreneur, you're always going to go through tough times. You will always find adversity moments. There's going to be challenges. And if your purpose is not strong enough, you're going to quit. You're going to be like 99% of the people out there who quit because your purpose wasn't in it. So it's like, Miko, you said, like, if you're building value, if you're creating impact in this world, if you can scale to massive amount of people who support your cause, and if your dream is big enough to contain all the dreams of the people that support it and then allow them to find their success or happiness within what you're building, that is where the power exists. And you got to start thinking a lot bigger than yourself. Because I'll tell you, most founders, they try to think themselves like as the king of the mountain. They want to stand on the top of the pyramid and beat their chest and raise their arms. And the problem is they make the company smaller than them. And if you put yourself first, you'll never build something. You got to build a company that's much bigger than you. I mean, look at Amazon with Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook. They're not the king of the mountain. They're just the ones that created this massive community of supporters. So you got to think bigger than yourself. And finally, expertise. Expertise, it's just things that things that you have access to. Maybe it's the resources that you have, whether you have specialized equipment or money in the bank, whatever the resources are, the expertise that you bring. So that, and I also don't want to limit that to the expertise that you currently have, although it's easier to monetize the skills or the knowledge you currently have. I also wanted to include the expertise that you're willing to learn. So for me to be a business coach and a speaker, I had to go invest in myself to become a better speaker, to do these videos and stand on stages and join my podcast. So you have to be open and flexible to things, the expertise that you truly desire, because those can be attained by practice.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that was powerful. I'm learning so much from Tony, even just from this interview. So the 3 things of passion, purpose, and expertise, and sounds like all these 3 areas requires a lot of knowing ourselves. It takes time to really get to know ourselves. So when you were on that journey, what were some of the non-negotiable things that really help guarantee your success? So like things like your community of people, what are some of those things that really help your success along the way?
I think your reputation and your character are the things that have unlimited value. And I think that too many people really gamble their character and their reputation early on, especially in their younger ages. And that's going to haunt you for the rest of your lives. It's probably worse now. I mean, I can imagine myself being in my 20s at this time, like there are literally cameras everywhere. Everybody's recording things. Your friends all have cameras. There are a lot of stupid things going on. And when I was young, I didn't have the benefit of that because unless someone was walking around with like a VCR camcorder, like it was pretty obvious that they're filming you. So nowadays it's like you have to be very careful about things. And I think a lot of times people get into supporting brands that they don't really vibe with because they think it's an easy money. I mean, there's a lot of people out there doing MLM and trying to get you into their downline and things like that. But if it's a product that you truly love and you see results from, the energy that you're going to have to promote that's going to, people are going to see that and they're going to go, wow, you got the results from this. And, you know, I encourage anybody to support the brand or the product or the service that they have a lot of alignment with, that they're getting the results with. But don't ever bet your character or your persona or your reputation on things that you're not aligned with. You have to learn to say no, because you saying no to things like that will open up opportunities that will find that they'll come across your plate that you align with. And if you're too, distracted by these things that you shouldn't be doing and these companies that you shouldn't be representing or the products that you shouldn't be selling, then you're not going to be focused on the things that you should be. So I see a lot of people destroy their character and their reputation. And honestly, it takes years and years and years to build that, and it takes seconds to lose that. Most people don't value it, especially younger people. They don't value it. I'll tell you that the reputation, the personal brand that you build right now, 20 years will be like this. It'll be a snap in the pan, and you're going to be thankful that you never stepped into those wrong zones and looking back, because that stuff will just haunt you. And I've seen too many people that can never make a full recovery based on the things they did when they were younger.
Absolutely. Yeah. Social media nowadays, like it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. You can use it for good or you can use it in the wrong way. So let's talk about, so I know on this journey, there must have been people in your life who you would call the naysayers, who may say that, why did you quit a corporate career to become a business owner? So how did you overcome those type of negativity?
I think it's I even lied to myself for the last 20 years, I would say, in the corporate world, because I've spent about 25 years in corporate while I owned businesses for 20. And the thing is that we have what we call a sunk cost fallacy. It's something that's a sunk cost. We've already spent the money, we've lost it, it's sank to the bottom of the ocean. It's just there, it exists, but we've already spent the money. And a lot of times we start to hinge our decisions based on those things that are not going to change. So whether I leave engineering or I decide not to be an engineer, I still own the degree. The money's already spent. It's there. I can always go back. A lot of people don't realize that. They think decisions are final. They're not final. You can always go back. If you want to be daring, go be daring. Give it a try. If it doesn't work, you can always go back, right? It's a secret that most people don't realize. And the thing is that when you look at this thing and you're going, wow, I'm making multiple six figures and I'm paid for engineering, and you guys heard how hard that was for 7 years, and all these things that just combine, and you go, well, yeah, I'm living the lifestyle that most people would kill to have. And, I have this retirement plan that's awesome. And it's just, those are the things that hold you back. And that's one of the things I actually learned from a friend, Ben Newman, who was a guest on my show. And he said that what holds most people back is something good. It's not what's something bad. Like you think bad people and bad things are holding you back, or bad decisions. Yeah, those can be a factor. But what holds most people back from their potential is actually something good. And it's that good job, that good salary, those good friends, that because they're not willing to trade good for great. You can see what greatness is. You can see what your potential is. You can feel that inside you, but you're like, I'm very comfortable. I've got this great paying job and everybody likes me and I'm respected. And you're not willing to gamble that to go get the life you really want. And unless you do that, you're not going to be rewarded. You're just going to be living in misery and always wondering, like, could I have done more? And if you reach your deathbed in a ripe old age, let's say the average age right now in the US is 84. Let's say you're 84 and you're laying in your deathbed and you're going to be looking back on your life, and I'll guarantee the regrets are going to be the ones that stick you in the eye. It's not going to be the things that you failed at. It's not going to be about the people that laughed at you. It's going to be about the things you didn't even try because you were so scared to step out, and you're never going to realize your potential. And that's, to me, just a sad thing. I think we all have incredible, unlimited potential. People just need to start believing in themselves. And I get it. It's hard. There's a lot of people out there, like you said, critics, naysayers, people that get in your head. Here's how you take their advice. Look at the person that's giving you the advice and put it in context. put it in context of who that person is. What is their risk tolerance? What is the thing that they're doing? Are they extraordinary? Have they tried the things that you really want to do? Have they really gone out of their way to prove that they are leading by example? And if the answer is no to those things, then don't take their advice. Just thank them and go, hey, thanks for that advice. And just kind of like put it in one ear and out the other, because you need to start taking advice from people who have done things, who have tried things, and people who are living the lifestyle that you want. So you also don't want to take criticism from people that you would not take advice from. So when somebody's criticizing you, ask yourself in a moment, real quick, go, would I trade places with that person? And if the answer is no, then you don't need to take their criticism, because they should be taking lessons from you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to know who you're listening to when it comes to anything in life. And I love what you said about how most of us will not trade what's good for what's great. Like, that is such a new perspective of looking at things. I've never thought of it that way, but that is so true. So many of us are settling for what's comfortable. So, other than what you mentioned about other regrets that will come up if we don't make a change now, what were some of the things in your personal life that really push you to force yourself to get out of that comfort zone? Because it's not easy.
Yeah, I think for me, it's always been just the drive to want more. I mean, I didn't grow up with any money, and I was surrounded by the money in my town. I can share a story back when I was a kid. We grew up in the worst neighborhood in the city. It wasn't a bad city, but the houses I lived in were very small and old and just falling apart. So that kind of a neighborhood. But there was always these more wealthy neighborhoods nearby. So I remember getting on my bicycle as a kid, probably 6, 7 years old, and just riding around and visiting the neighborhoods nearby and just looking at these giant houses. And I really remember this vivid. I would stop on my bike and just stare at a house that had a bunch of windows on the front, as simple as that sounds. And I realized, like, there was only one window on the front of the house I lived in. So I remember standing in that window every day, watching my older sister get on the school bus before I could go to school. So I just remember having one view out of my house, right? Other than the ones in the back of the house that no one cares about. So I'm looking out the front of the window, and that's all I really knew as a child. So when I started to see these big houses with 20 windows and stuff on the front, I'm like, what the heck is this? And I remember just parking my bike and looking at those houses going, I wonder what the view looks like from every one of those windows. Could I run through this house and just really find every window and look out and just to see what the view looks like? And that still sticks to me to this day. And I started visualizing myself running through the hallways and just looking after, some of them you'd probably have to crawl up and look out because they're too tall. But I just remember thinking, like, where is this world coming from where people have these giant homes and you realize, like, only 2 people live in there, but there's 4 cars in the driveway. Like, what is that? Like, my parents were sharing a vehicle for a lot of times, and I just didn't understand a lot of things, but it was that I was exposed to that it became reality, that became possible. So as I started to get older, I would ask a lot of questions of people who are doing things or having a big house or a nice car. And I was just genuinely curious. I would just say, hey, that's a beautiful car. Do you mind telling me, like, what you do for a living? Because I'd like to understand, like, how I can get there. And if you ask in a sincere manner, most people will give you the answer. You'll find that the highly successful people tend to be the most giving with information and knowledge. It's not the persona that people in the media and the news and the politics try to make people look at, but all the ones that are giving the philanthropy, the millions of dollars, they're the rich people. They're not the poor people, because they don't have the money to give. So you've got to reframe a lot of the things we learned, that wealth is bad and money is greed and rich people are evil, and like all these things that we are pre-programmed with at an early age. You need to start questioning why you believe that, understand where the source of that came from, and then again, put it in the context of who that source was. Was that your teacher? Was that your parents? Was that your uncle that just talked too much and like made fun of everybody? Like, where's the context of them? Were they successful saying that? No, they weren't. So again, you go, wow, I need to quit taking advice from my past based on the things that I heard when I was a kid. Like, it's not even true. Like, now I'm on the other side of that. It completely is not true. So it's kind of fun to understand the perspectives and how they shift.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm personally on this journey too myself, of overcoming that mindset we have around money, around wealth and abundance. So how did you overcome your middle class mindset to where you're at right now, which I'm sure has a huge factor in the success that you currently have in your life?
I think for me, it started with just reading books. I love to read. And even now, I still read about a book, audio book. I finish an audio book every week and I read one in paperback, probably one a month. So I'm always adding new information, new perspectives. I think that books are very powerful
Mhm.
because they condense the vast knowledge or expertise of somebody down to something that's affordable and portable. I mean, really, if I can spend $14 on a book and learn one thing that I can carry the rest of my life that can be impacting thousands of people or make millions of dollars, like why would I not go spend $14? I mean, think about universities, like your students coming out, they're
Yeah.
spending, 50 to $100,000 nowadays for a university degree. It's like that's an investment, just like a book is. So find the knowledge that you want to have. And when I started reading books from famous people who had become successful in autobiographies, you start to understand that they think a little differently, and it
Mhm.
starts to challenge your beliefs in the way you think. And if you keep yourself open-minded, you start to adapt some of the habits they have. So to me, it was like the business success came as a result of the execution I delivered, but it was never something I thought would make millions of dollars. I actually had really small thoughts when I started that company. I had a car and I had a business partner. We both had brand new cars and they were about $500 a month was what the payments were on those.
Mhm.
And we said, you know what, if we can build this business to pay for our cars, it would be like getting a free car. I mean, that's how small I was thinking. This was 2001. It wasn't that long ago. And so it was like $500 a month. He and I were both like, yeah, that'd be awesome. It'd be like a free car. We have this website and it just pays for our free car and we can go racing and have like a free car. So very small. When we sold that site, we were making over $400,000 a year profit on that website. So that
Mhm.
kind of shows you, and that was only in 5 years. We sold that company in 2006.
Mhm.
So understand that in a period of 5 years, we went from making, $500 a month goals to selling for multiple seven figures on an exit plan. So we understood shortly, like, oh, this is a legit business, and it started snowballing pretty quickly with momentum, and it grew and grew and grew. We're making $20,000 a month each, kind of like as a part-time business. So it was a fun way to get into it, but we didn't learn like how to scale things until we kind of just jumped in. But I
Mhm.
think if that's anything that you're going to take away from that is you have to start, you have to jump in and just learn as you go. Like, don't think that you need to know all the answers, but I'll tell you, I know a lot of highly successful and unsuccessful entrepreneurs, and none of us knew everything getting in. It's just you have to jump in, you have to learn, you have to improve, you need to find the weak spots, you need to either fortify your knowledge or skill base on those weak spots or hire somebody to do those that you don't want to do. Learn to delegate what you hate. Too many people kill themselves trying to learn something they have no interest in, no passion in, no skill in. Go hire somebody, go get a freelancer, get somebody that's a part-time, hire a VA from overseas. Like, there's a lot of options nowadays. It's a whole lot easier now. It's never been easier today than today for being an entrepreneur. Back,
Mhm.
20 years ago, it was actually very hard to build something like that organically because we didn't have the paid ad reaches like social media. If I wanted to go run an ad in a magazine back then, it was like $8,000 for a page ad. One page. Circulation was only like 30,000 issues and it would cost that much. So think about that as I could fire up a video. Now it could go viral and I could see 100,000 views for free. So
Yeah.
it's a lot easier. There's no really good excuses anymore, but you got to be willing to just take that first step.
Yeah, and 5 years is such a short period of time, but imagine the kind of work that could really, you can make it happen with
Mhm.
daily consistency and persistence. So I know, like, on this journey, it takes daily recommitment to
Mhm.
yourself, to your goals, and it's not something that just happens like one day you decide it and then 5 years later it's just magic. So what were some of the ways you keep yourself going despite the ups and downs on this journey? How did you recommit yourself every day to doing the work to get to where you're at today?
I got a funny answer, then I'll talk about the word consistency. But the funny answer is this. This actually propelled me through college as well.
Mm-hmm.
Engineering school was very hard. I was very average at math. I just knew that I could earn some good money when I got that degree, and it was kind of related to the car thing because mechanical engineering. I get to learn about all about the car systems and why they all work. So it was kind of fun. But what got me through college is, and I never changed majors and I never dropped out. It was that I realized that there was thousands of other people who had already done this degree plan, and I'd met a lot of people with engineering degrees that I thought were kind of morons, kind of stupid people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also met some very highly successful financially people who were kind of dumb. And I'm thinking, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I know your listeners are probably laughing at this. But you know what? Every one of us has had that thought because you see somebody that's highly successful and you're like, that guy did it. Oh my God. Like, why am I quitting? Like, geez, so use that as fuel. Like, like don't like hate people like that, but understand that, dude, they did it. So what are your excuses? So that's one thing that kind of propelled me even today. Like I look at people, I'm like, come on, man, like step it up, Tony. Like, come on, that guy's kicking your butt. Come on. So that's one thing. So the other word is consistency. That's my big word. And I started looking back on everything that was successful in my life is always based on the word consistency. And I get that that's a fundamental word and that most people hear this their entire lives, like be consistent, show up consistently, do consistent hard work. But the problem is that like anything, when you hear it over and over and over, it starts to lose impact. You start to go, yeah, I got that. Consistency, I got that. Yeah, honesty, I got that. All these fundamentals. But the problem is those things are fundamentals for a reason. Those are the foundation of everything. So when you start to disregard the fundamentals, you understand that you're going to fall apart because your foundation's really weak. So you can't just disregard things because you've heard it. You need to go back and look at every fundamental, every core value, honesty, integrity, just, character, all these things that drive people, and go, where am I lacking in that? Where can I get better in doing these things? Because I'm going to give you my version of consistency, because I realize that I'm a little bit abnormal, and a lot of people think it's insane things that I do, but this is how you get results. So I want to start with the first time, like the work week, 5 days. Most people work 5 days a week. That's just how our country, most around the world, kind of are based on 5 days a work week. But when you do the simple math, 5 divided by 7 in a total work week, there's 7 days. If you do only work 5 days out of 7, that calculates to a 71%. And in 71% is barely passing grade. That's a D minus in college and in high school. So basically, if you only work in 5 days a week and you don't have the lifestyle that you truly want, then you're just barely getting by. You're getting a 71 for the week. So when you start thinking about that, it's true. So a lot of people out there are not willing to use those 2 extra days to get ahead, and they're not willing to do what it takes. Like I said, you got to be willing to do what it takes. And if it requires you to work weekends to go bust ass and go do those kind of things, then do it. Like, put your ego aside and go do it. Quit living for the weekends. Because I tell you, the sooner you start living for the weekends, like the corporate world, you're going to get stuck in that trap for the rest of your life. And 45 years are going to go by and you're going to be like, wow, I am not where I wanted to be. I thought it would be so much further. And you're going to look back. Well, it's because you scored a 71 for your entire life. You did the rinse and repeat for the entire 45 years of your career. And then that's a hard truth that people face. And you don't want to get to that point and look back and think about that. So do what it takes. So consistency on my part. Consistency means showing up every single day. And I mean that. So when I'm building a personal brand on social media, or if I'm building an online business, I do something productive every day. Even when I'm on a holiday or vacation, I might fire up the laptop for like 30 minutes just to do something to be a little bit productive, because I'm wired that way. I'm always like, how can I gain ahead? I start thinking about who my competitors are. I think about them relaxing and I go, what can I do to get ahead of them? And I'll tell you that everything I get into, I go at hard. I just go like as hard as I can at it, try to do the best I can at it. And I blow past all these people who have been in there for years, and they're like, you think they're good when you're jumping in, and the perceptions that they're good. And then, a year into it, I'm like blowing past them and doing laps around these people because they are not consistent. They have chinks in their armor. They have the vulnerabilities that they're leaving exposed. They're not doing things good at all levels. So I really observe who the people who are really doing the ace jobs in anything I want to get into. And what can I do better? What can I do more unique? How can I have more impact and things like that? So consistency means every single day. You got to do that. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not as serious, because there are people like me out there who do things every day, and we will bury you. And there's people out there with the passion and the consistency. Yeah. They're going to leave you so far behind. You're going to wonder why you're even starting. So I want you to listen to this. And if you're not serious about doing something, then I don't know, maybe you shouldn't even start, to be honest.
Wow, Tony, that was powerful. Like the way we frame the way we look at our life, and the how much time we spend in a full-time job is actually not that big portion of our time. And when we look at it this way, building a side hustle business seems super easy and doable. It's all about time management, and also just getting mentored by people like you, people who have done it before, really following your footsteps. Like that's really all it takes, and putting in the work, like you said. So this is the final question that let's wrap up this interview. There's been so much nuggets and value from this so far. So I usually end my interviews with this questions with everyone on here. So what is one thing that you wish someone would have told you when you were still in your 20s?
Oh, that's an easy one. The first thing that pops up is you need to start, the sooner that you can learn to not worry about what other people say or think about you, the more empowered you will be. And you'll be a completely different life. You'll have
Mhm.
far more courage and bravery to do things that you've never done. You'll be willing to take more risks and get the more rewards, because I think too many people are so worried about what other people say. Like a lot of times people frame their fear as failure. Like, I'm afraid to fail. Like, no, we're not. We fail all the time. Our entire lives are filled with failure. We have daily failure. If you go to the gym today and you work out, that last set, you're going to fail that last rep, right? So it's normal. Because we're kids, since we're babies, we fall down, we do kinds of silly things. Like, we're used to being failure, but what we really don't want is people judging us and like laughing at us and ridiculing us. So when you start worrying about that, that's what the real fear is. So you're not afraid of the failure, you're afraid of what they're going to say about your failure. When you understand that, you can start to become more empowered and go, these critics, these naysayers, and these haters are really going to keep me back. And the thing is that those people are not supporting you anyways. And
Mhm.
people will basically avoid their entire potential, their path, their dreams, because they're so worried about what these other people who don't support them say. So what I really want you to understand is that you need to quit letting these people get in your head. You need to quit letting these people dictate your life, because they're not going to be at your funeral. When you're an old person and you're laying in your deathbed and you're going to look back over your life with regret, and you're going to wonder why you didn't do things, you're going to be like, because I was so worried about what so-and-so was going to say. That so-and-so is not going to be standing there at your deathbed, because they're not supporting you. So get those people out of your life. If they're in your social media circle, get rid of them, delete them, block them, unfriend them. If these people do not bring energy to you, then they're taking energy away from you. If you feel depleted every time you talk to them, if you feel lower every time you see them, get rid of those people from your life as soon as possible, and understand that this is a never-ending cycle. It's going to go on for the rest of your life, but you outgrow people, and that's fine. It's normal. Like, if they're not on your journey, then don't take them along. You can't force everybody to come with you, no matter how if you love them or if you like them. But just pay attention to that one question. Do they bring you energy, or do they take energy from you? Get rid of them. It's a yes or no question.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So, Tony, I know you have such a huge heart and passion to really help people out there, especially people my age group, to learn how to live to their fullest potentials and, achieve financial independence. So I know you have prepared a free gift for our audience today for thanking them to be on here. So can you let us know where we can access that?
Yeah, you can visit my website. It's 365driven.com. So 365driven.com. And you'll find a link there for downloading the first 2 free chapters of my book, Side Hustle Millionaire. But those are my favorite parts of the book, because it's about mindset. And if you've heard me for the last 45 minutes, it's all about mindset and what's in your mind. That's going to dictate your future. And I wanted you guys to have that first 2 chapters about business mindset, and also eliminating the excuses that people use to not start their first business.
Yeah, absolutely. And just if you want the whole book of Tony's, it's on Amazon. Highly recommended. So much good stuff on there. So, Tony, how else can our audience find you if they would absolutely love to follow you and continue to learn from you on social media?
Awesome. I'm active on Facebook and Instagram. So it's at 365driven on Instagram. And I'm also very active on LinkedIn. But if you go to the website that I mentioned earlier, 365driven.com, you also find all those links. And I have a Facebook group as well. It's full of entrepreneurs, about 3,000 people that we support each other. And I've also got a top ranked iTunes podcast called 365 Driven. So there you go. I'm consistent on branding. So hopefully you find me on the cyberspace. I'd love to hear from you. If you've got any questions, reach out to me.
Perfect, perfect. Awesome. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today to listen to this interview with Tony Whatley. Definitely make sure to check out the next episode where we'll be going into habits for success. So thank you, guys, and we'll see you soon. Bye.